this demo, we're going to walk through some of the capabilities presented to an app developer by SOA Software's Enterprise API platform. This builds on the anonymous experience that we've already seen, where a user is likely to have searched or browsed through the system, found a particular API they want to consume. So the next steps are going to be to create an account or use an existing account to log in. In this case, we'll just log in using my Jane developer account. And we'll get a very similar experience to that presented to an API administrator, in that I have a dashboard that's an aggregation of all the entries from all the boards of all the objects that I'm following, that I've expressed an interest in. So in this case, the board currently shows a lot of request objects from the various different apps that I already have. So let's take a quick look at some of the apps. Much like the My APIs construct, I have a My Apps idea as an app developer. And here are some of the apps that I've already created, I administer, and the apps that I'm choosing to follow. In this case, we see a set of apps that represent the test suite that are driving traffic through the system, and a few apps that I've created in the context of various different demos and exciting apps and iOS apps and other things like that. If I take a look at one of the existing apps that's driving traffic, I see the APIs that it's consuming. I see the team members, so I have a team concept. I can invite multiple people to work with me on the development of an app. I have the credentials, so the app has an ID and a set of keys, and I can create and define public OAuth details that will be presented to a third-party user using the application. I also get things like monitoring. So I can see the traffic that the app is currently pushing through the various APIs it's using. In this case, it's consuming 5 different APIs. We can see it's pushing about 7 transactions a second through all of those APIs with about 3 milliseconds of latency and the occasional error. Very similar to the API view, but what we're seeing here is just the traffic from this one app, and it's the traffic against all of the various APIs. So again, I can drill into charts, see the recent traffic that we're pushing through, looking over the last 15 minutes. Here's a bunch of traffic that the APIs are pushing through the system. I can look at logs, and it'll start pulling up logs from the back-end system. I can browse through these and see the lists of the APIs that the apps are consuming, or this specific app is consuming. And it'll load these logs from the system over time. So here are the logs. I can see the list of APIs that we're consuming. Services, my customers, a whole bunch of them. I can see the occasional fault, and based on my experience as an API administrator, I expect to see that the faults are being caused by a failure percent setting, indeed. So nothing to worry about there. And that's a very similar view to the view that's presented to an API administrator. Once again, all of the different APIs and just the traffic from this app for each of those APIs. So there's a contract perspective here that limits my visibility. The team is the group of people that are working with me on this app. In this case, there's just me. I'm a solo developer. And I can see the list of APIs that I'm consuming and their various statuses. So I can see that one API has been removed, so I'm no longer able to consume that. And I have 5 APIs that I'm active in a sandbox environment. I've got a pending request for production to my money and a rejected request for production for the product API. And we'll walk through that workflow process and show how all of that works as we go through this. For now, let's show the idea of creating an app. Very simple, from the plus button. If I have the privilege that allows me to add an app, then I'll see this link here. I create an app, I define it, and call it a new demo app. In fact, just to get my capitalization right. And it's at version 1. We'll call it tagged with demo. We'll make it private. I don't want it to be visible in a public environment. And it's a demo app. Very exciting. Now remember that all of this information that I type and provide here will be indexed. So I can search for any of these things and look through the search index for them. Now, I'll be the only one able to find this in the search index because I've marked it as private. If I marked it as public, it would be visible to everybody. I can choose to upload an avatar for my app. Let's take this one. I can edit if I want to, but it looks pretty good as it is. And that's just going to help make my app pretty. So here's a new app. It has keys, so an app ID, has a shared secret dynamically generated that we use for HMAC signature and for OAuth. I can also choose to import an X509 certificate signing request, which we'll then use to generate X509 certs. The product contains a built-in certificate authority for managing all of these things. Apps have ratings and reviews, much like the other resources in the system. What I want to do now, though, is go and find an API and walk through the process of consuming that API with this system. So let's see, what APIs am I following? My customers. That looks like a good choice. We'll take the My Customers API and I will request access to it. I'm going to request access from my new demo app. You can see the list of apps that I've already provisioned for access to this. I'm going to choose the sandbox endpoint because there's no approval required here. It'll just go straight through. And I'm going to be required to accept the legal agreement, which I will gladly do. Since I wrote it, I'm comfortable that it's a good agreement. And I'll save that. And what this is doing in the background is creating a valid production contract that allows my app to consume this API. And because of the automated approval for sandbox endpoints, that's going to be dynamically generated and activated immediately. So if I come back and look at my app now, look at the APIs that it's consuming, there's only one, My Customers API, and it's active in the sandbox environment. Now what that allows me to do is use my developer console, which is a test tool in the context of each app, and I can request access to I've requested access to the My Customers API, fills in information. I'm going to use the list method, which seems reasonable, and I'll send a request. And I get a successful response back with a JSON document that presents a whole bunch of objects that are stored in the system. I can try and read a specific one. Now, care needs to be a little taken here because in the background I'm running a load test which is deleting some of these objects live, so this may be not found yet. There we go. Happens fairly regularly. We get a resource not found coming back from that service because the load test is removing them as we go. But you get the idea. It's a very powerful test utility that allows me to see all of the methods and validate those methods. I can change content types and verify that different technologies and techniques work. Very simple and yet powerful construct and capability. So that's a very quick, simple view of the kind of capabilities available to an app developer, ranging from monitoring the performance of their own apps, connecting to APIs and consuming those APIs, and showing just how easy that workflow process is for all of that.